Good evening. Let's start with what was said, and just as importantly, how it was said. On January 24th, the Chinese Defense Ministry released a statement. It was not long, it was not detailed. It did not include photographs, timelines, or explanations. It simply said that Zhang Youxia, China's top-ranking general and a member of the Politburo, had been placed under investigation. The reason given was suspected serious discipline and law violations. That phrase, in this context, is doing a lot of work. Zhang Youxia is not just any officer, he is the #1 general in China. He sits at the very top of the country's military structure. He is also a member of the Communist Party's Politburo, which places him at the apex of both military and political authority. And now, according to that statement, he is under investigation. The ministry also said that another senior military figure, Liu Zhenli, who serves alongside Zhang on the Central Military Commission, is also involved in the probe. No further details were provided. No explanation of what prompted the investigation. No indication of timing, scope, or outcome. Just that it is happening. And that matters. Because when something this significant is announced this briefly, it is not accidental. It is deliberate. The lack of detail is part of the message. The Central Military Commission is the highest military decision-making body in China. It is small by design. Every seat at that table matters. When the Defense Ministry acknowledged that 2 of its members are now under investigation, it also confirmed something else, almost in passing. The number of active leaders at the top of China's military has been reduced. That is not analysis. That is a structural fact. At the very moment when the country's highest military body is expected to function with unity and continuity, 2 of its members are now effectively sidelined by an investigation. One of them is the top-ranking general in the entire system. There was no press conference, no opportunity for follow-up questions. The announcement stands on its own, and it landed with weight. Hear that silence, one might say. That's where the meaning is. Zhang Youxia's position makes this especially consequential. As a Politburo member, he is part of a very small group that shapes the country's highest-level decisions. His military rank places him above all other officers. His presence on the Central Military Commission makes him integral to the command structure. The investigation, as described, touches all of those roles at once. The phrase serious discipline and law violations has a specific and consistent use in official Chinese statements. It signals that the matter is considered grave. It also signals that the process is internal, controlled, and not open to public scrutiny. What is notable here is not what the statement says, but what it does not say. There is no mention of charges, no mention of evidence, no timeline, no clarification of whether Zhang remains in his post during the investigation, no explanation of Liu Zhenli's involvement beyond the bare acknowledgement that he, too, is part of the probe. And yet, the effect is immediate. Because once an investigation of this kind is announced, the individual's ability to function in their role is fundamentally altered. Authority becomes conditional. Presence becomes symbolic. Decision-making slows or stops altogether. The Defense Ministry did not need to spell that out. It is understood. This is not the first time that senior military officials in China have been investigated. But the rank and political standing involved here place this announcement in a different category. The #1 general is not a peripheral figure. He is not a regional commander or a retired official. He is central. And the statement confirms that the investigation is active. At the same time, the ministry's acknowledgement that this reduces the number of active leaders at the apex military body is unusually direct. It is an admission that the institution itself is now operating with fewer hands on the wheel. That is a factual consequence of the investigation. Nothing more, nothing less. The timing, as stated, is January 24th. The source of the information is the Defense Ministry itself. There is no indication that this announcement was leaked or forced. It is official. Which raises a quiet but important point. When a system chooses to make something like this public, Even in the most restrained way possible, it is making a choice. It is deciding that acknowledgement serves a purpose. What that purpose is, the statement does not say. And so we stay with what we know. Zhang Youxia is under investigation for suspected serious discipline and law violations. Liu Zhenli, another Central Military Commission member, is also involved. Minimal details have been released. The number of active leaders at the top military body has been reduced. Those are the facts. Everything else is silence. And sometimes, silence carries its own weight. As one might quietly observe on air, when the words are this few, every one of them counts. When the Defense Ministry confirmed the investigation, it also quietly changed how the top of China's military functions. That change did not require new rules. It did not require a formal reorganization. It happened the moment the announcement was made. Zhang Youxia's role, by definition, sits at the intersection of authority and continuity. As the country's top-ranking general, his presence is foundational to how the military's senior leadership operates day to day. When that presence is placed under investigation, even without removal or formal suspension spelled out, the practical effect is immediate. Decision-making does not simply pause on paper, it pauses in rooms. The Central Military Commission is designed to operate with a very limited number of members. Each individual holds defined responsibilities, but the structure relies on collective participation. When two members are involved in an investigation, and one of them is the most senior officer, the balance of that structure shifts. The Defense Ministry acknowledged this directly by noting that the number of active leaders at the apex military body has been reduced. That is a factual acknowledgement of an operational reality. Liu Zhenli's inclusion in the probe compounds that effect. He is also a member of the Central Military Commission. His involvement means that the investigation is not isolated to a single individual. It touches multiple points within the same governing body. And yet, the ministry provided no detail on how those roles are being managed during the investigation. No interim arrangements were announced. No acting appointments were mentioned. No explanation was offered as to whether either individual continues to participate in meetings or decisions. The statement simply exists. In that way, the announcement creates a space where absence is implied but not described. Sometimes, a voice might say softly, what's missing is the loudest part. The phrase serious discipline and law violations is not new. It has appeared in numerous official investigations over time. Its use signals that the matter is considered significant within the party and military disciplinary framework. It also signals that the process is internal and governed by established mechanisms. But the phrase does not describe conduct. It does not specify actions. It does not explain scope. It functions as a boundary. Everything inside that boundary is not public. What is public is the effect on leadership. The Central Military Commission's role is to oversee the armed forces. It operates at the highest level. Its decisions shape military policy, structure, and command. When its membership is effectively reduced, even temporarily, the institution operates under altered conditions. This is not commentary. It is structural reality. The Defense Ministry's acknowledgement of that reduction is notable precisely because it does not elaborate. It does not dramatize. It does not minimize. It simply states that the number of active leaders has gone down. That sentence, brief as it is, carries institutional weight, because it confirms that the investigation has practical consequences beyond the individuals named. It affects the body itself. Zhang Youxia's status as a Politburo member adds another layer to this. The Politburo is among the highest political bodies in the country. Membership is limited. Each member holds significant influence. An investigation involving a Politburo member is, by definition, not routine. The Defense Ministry's statement does not dwell on this. It does not explain the implications. It does not connect dots. But the fact remains, a senior political and military figure is under investigation, and that investigation has been publicly acknowledged. At the same time, the statement carefully avoids language that would suggest outcome or direction. There is no mention of guilt. There is no mention of expected resolution. There is no mention of disciplinary measures beyond the investigation itself. The tone is restrained, almost clinical, and that restraint is part of the communication. By releasing minimal information, the ministry maintains control over the narrative while also fulfilling a requirement to acknowledge the investigation. It neither invites speculation nor provides reassurance. It simply states, the involvement of Liu Zhenli is similarly presented. His name appears. His position is identified. His involvement is acknowledged. And then the statement moves on. There is no differentiation made between the two cases. No indication of who is leading the investigation. No clarification of whether the matters are connected or parallel. The absence of those details keeps the focus narrow. This is about the fact of the investigation, not its contents. From an institutional perspective, that matters, because it allows the system to signal accountability without opening itself to public examination of internal processes. The Defense Ministry's role in making the announcement also matters. This is not a leak. This is not an external report. This is an official statement, which means the timing, the wording, and the scope were chosen. January 24th is the date attached to this acknowledgement. That date now marks a point at which the composition of the top military leadership is formally altered. Not permanently, at least not yet, but altered nonetheless. One might pause here and say, this is where the room gets quieter. Because when a system this hierarchical signals change this subtly, the signal is meant to be noticed by those who need to notice it. The ministry did not need to say that Zhang Youxia is a key figure. That is already understood. It did not need to explain the importance of the Central Military Commission. That is already known. Instead, it stated the bare minimum and let the structure speak for itself. 2 members under investigation, minimal details released, active leadership reduced. Those 3 elements define the situation, and they do so without commentary. As the announcement settles, the institution continues to function. Orders are issued. Schedules proceed. The military does not stop. But the composition at the top has shifted, and that shift is now part of the official record. One short line captures the moment. This is happening now. That is all the statement really says. By the time we reach the end of what the Defense Ministry has told us, there is remarkably little left on the page. And yet, everything essential has already been said. On January 24th, China's Defense Ministry publicly confirmed that Zhang Youxia, the country's top-ranking general and a member of the Politburo, is under investigation for suspected serious discipline and law violations. It also confirmed that Liu Zhenli, another member of the Central Military Commission, is involved in the probe. Minimal details were released. The ministry also acknowledged that the investigation reduces the number of active leaders at the apex military body. Those are the complete stated facts. Nothing in that statement gestures beyond itself. Nothing invites interpretation. Nothing explains why now, how long, or what comes next. And that, in itself, is the conclusion. Because in systems built on hierarchy and discipline, announcements like this are not designed to inform the public in a conventional sense. They are designed to mark a condition, to draw a line in time, to formally register that something has changed. Not everything, just enough. Zhang Youxia's investigation alters the landscape of leadership without the need for visible disruption. There is no announcement of removal, no declaration of suspension, no naming of replacements. The ministry does not say that his authority has ended. It simply states that an investigation is underway. And within this system, that statement alone carries weight. It means that decisions associated with his role are now constrained by process. It means that his standing, while not publicly revoked, is no longer unconditional. It means that the institution has acknowledged a pause, even if it does not describe it as such. The same applies to Liu Zhenli. By naming him as involved in the probe, the ministry confirms that the investigation reaches more than one seat on the Central Military Commission. It confirms that the matter is not isolated to a single figure acting alone. It confirms that the impact is collective, not singular. But again, it does not elaborate. The absence of elaboration is consistent throughout. There is no reference to specific conduct, no mention of findings, no indication of whether the investigation began internally before being announced or whether it coincides with the announcement itself. There is only the acknowledgement that it exists, and that acknowledgement, once made, cannot be undone. One could say quietly, once a name is spoken, the room remembers it. The Defense Ministry's choice to publicly confirm the reduction in active leadership is particularly striking. That line does not need to be included to fulfill a basic disclosure requirement. It is included because it describes an institutional effect. It tells us that the Central Military Commission is now operating with fewer active participants at its highest level. That is not a symbolic statement. It is an operational one, and it closes the loop. The investigation is not just about accountability. It has immediate structural consequences. The ministry confirms this without drama, without emphasis, and without explanation. Just a fact. The tone of the announcement is steady. There is no urgency in the language. There is no defensiveness. There is no reassurance. It does not ask for patience. It does not promise transparency. It simply states what is. That tone matters, because it suggests that the system views this development as something to be recorded, not debated, as something to be acknowledged, not discussed. The investigation exists. The leadership count has changed. The institution continues. End of statement. From that point forward, everything proceeds within the boundaries of that acknowledgement. The military remains under the authority of the Central Military Commission. The commission remains intact, though altered. The individuals named remain under investigation. Nothing else is promised. Nothing else is explained. And that restraint is intentional. In this context, restraint is not absence. It is control. By releasing only what is necessary, the Defense Ministry ensures that the narrative remains fixed to official language. There is no space created for clarification because no clarification is offered. There is no timeline to question because none is given. The statement stands as a closed loop. This is the situation. These are the names. This is the effect. One short spoken line captures the feeling of the moment. This is all we are meant to know. The date, January 24th, anchors the announcement in time. From that date forward, Zhang Youxia's status is defined by the investigation. Liu Zhenli's status is similarly defined. The Central Military Commission's composition is officially reduced. Those facts do not change unless another statement is made, and until then, the silence holds. There is no follow-up within the announcement, no indication that more information will be provided later, no suggestion that the public will be kept informed. The process is internal. The acknowledgement is external. The boundary between the two is clearly drawn, and that boundary is where this account ends, not with resolution, not with explanation, but with a confirmation that a process is underway and that it has already reshaped the top of the military structure. That is the final, stated reality. As one might say at the close of a broadcast, that's where we leave it tonight.